Hello, hello, hello there. Welcome to the show. Who are you? This is your host, Dr. Leah. I am glad to be here today. I am glad to be in South Africa. So today we are actually in South Africa. We are going to be in Africa for a while this month, and I am glad to be having to host our African queens to get to know what they are doing out there, how they are serving the people out there. And so today we are, yes, in South Africa. We have one of the greatest queens that, I got an opportunity to work with virtually, and I am so glad to have been able to meet her today, and you will also be meeting her today. It is Magical Thursday. So I hope your weather is good. I hope you have your drink. Come on in. Tell us where you're watching from so that we can appreciate you. Tell us what you think about the show after the show. We really appreciate feedbacks as well. And a little bit about our guest today. Her name is KHOSI. So, and I know I will probably have, pronounced the name wrongly, and she will forgive me because I've really tried. But nevertheless, we will be hearing more from her. She's from South Africa. She's a coach. She's been working before in the energy industry. So she has quite a broader experience in the energy sector, and she is one of those ladies who are out there cheering up the young girls, young teenage moms, trying to support them, to mentor them, to help them to, just grow into the better version of themselves, to know that, wherever they are, they can be even far much beyond where they expect to be. And so she is working as well with a lot of big organizations. She coaches and she mentors, managers. She makes strategies for them in big organizations as well as small organizations. So we will be getting to get a lot of information both on the business side and on the coaching side, and as well as, on her journey as, as a coach, as a normal corporate employee that she was before, and how she is impacting the sphere of her influence. So I will not take so much time, and I will just bring her up so that we can get to chat up with her today. Hello there. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you, Leah?
I'm fine, thank you. I know probably I pronounced your name wrongly, but I know you will forgive me. I tried. I was mastering it the whole time. I was sweating myself like, wow, I hope I pronounced the name properly, but nevertheless, I tried. Welcome, KHOSI, to the show. Who are you? We are honored to host you today, and we are honored that you've been able to welcome us in South Africa. Some of us, me in particular, I've never been to South Africa. So I'm great to be in South Africa this afternoon with you, chatting up and getting to know you, to get what you do, and to understand how best you help and, serve the community around you. So without any delay, introduce yourself. Let us know who you are.
Okay. Well, thank you for that lovely welcome, Leah. And hello, everyone watching. My name is KHOSI GCABASHE, as Leah has said, and I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. We are experiencing spring right now, so it's nice and warm today. At least it's not like other days where we've had cold weather. Mm-hmm. And my journey, it's been a wonderful journey to be where I am today. I'm originally from a city called Durban in South Africa, which is by the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And now I'm residing in Johannesburg, which is in Gauteng province. So in your introduction, you mentioned that you've never been to South Africa, so I'm inviting you.
Thank you.
Welcome to South Africa whenever you have time.
Thank you. I'll come back on you on that.
Okay. Yes. So you mentioned that I work as a coach now, but before then, I've done different things in my life. Initially, I studied as a sociologist, and I did also political science. But then I've always had an interest in business. So for my graduate degree, I was lucky to get a scholarship that took me to England, and I studied an MBA there. So that's how I got introduced to business, and I have not looked back. It's not to say I've forgotten my sociology background. I use it every time. Yeah, so when I came back from England, I worked for government. It was at the time when we were transitioning from apartheid to democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And so my
In big
contribution to government was a whole year there,
organization.
doing public service and public administration and training,
Mm-hmm.
which was quite insightful and interesting for me at the time. But I've always had my mind on getting into corporates. So I then joined the energy company, the biggest we have in South
Mm-hmm.
Africa. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I did quite a number of things, but I think the biggest career there was when I worked as a strategy and business planning manager with
Okay.
stakeholder, with stakeholder management. And
Mm-hmm.
this was for capital projects, which was quite a big thing then. It still is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that was long ago, maybe more than 10 years ago, when we started the projects where we're
Mm-hmm.
looking at building new power stations and upgrading our transmission lines and building new ones
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all
Awesome.
over.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm so glad, you've had a quite a vast journey and, looking at the various places that you've been, looking at, you going through learning sociology first before you decided to embark on business and, having that opportunity to go and broaden up your spectrum and decide to come back on a business level and working with all these big organizations. Walk us through how it felt and how you felt working with this big organization in a different aspect rather than, and I know you've said that you use psychology a lot, which is definitely, oh, I think we lost her there because of our connection, so we will try to get her back. And as we continue to wait for KHOSI to come back, oh my goodness, people, you don't know how it feels to be struggling with names. I thought I could be struggling with other names, but I didn't know I would be struggling a lot with the African names. But nevertheless, I know I am forgiven. Yes, so like I say, as we will just go on a short break as we wait for Nkosi to come back, because due to her connection, there's been a lot of difficulties with connections in Africa. So I believe that she will be coming back on board in a short while. So don't go anywhere, just hang on in, and then we will catch up back again.
Your heart is tarnished black and blue. Betrayal is a feeling, not a word anymore. And you won't fall in love again. You've opened up too many times to be let down once more. And you say, I'll build a wall around myself.
Hello, welcome back to the show, Who Are You? I am your host, Dr. Leah, and I can see we have Nkosi back on board, and we will just bring her back and we can catch her back on the conversation that we were taking. She's already given us a little bit of her journey as psychology student, and then, you know, getting the scholarship, going to the UK, and she embarked on studying business in the UKs, and then coming back and changing her career, her dimension of what she expected to do. Then we will kind of get a little bit more from her, since we were cut short in between when she was on. So welcome back.
Hello. Sorry, I think we have a connectivity issue around here.
No worries at all. There've been a lot of connectivities for a while now, so don't worry. That's what happened. Just simple hiccup. But nevertheless, you're back. So welcome back.
Yes.
So probably you can continue to walk us through your journey. You left us hanging on you going back to South Africa and decided to embark on working in business.
In corporate.
Yes.
Okay. So I was still saying that I started working with capital projects where we're building new power stations and new transmission lines and upgrading some of them. And this was a very, very big projects that we're working with. We had to have partners like Siemens and Hitachi and others. And my role was to make sure stakeholders are informed and kept informed about the projects and the work we're doing, and we had a diverse number of projects. That was one part of the work, and the other part was doing the strategy and planning for all the projects that we were working on. And so I had a very small team, and it covered work in the country, almost all the provinces you find in South Africa. And working not only with, it also meant working with executives within the company, and different stakeholders from government, from local government, and trade unions and youth. So that's part of the work that I did. And then I was also involved in, because you work in localities and communities where these power stations are, and you need to talk to the people there and understand what their requirements are, so that the impact, the environmental impact from the work you're doing does not impact them in a big way, but you're working together to make sure that your projects run smoothly and all of that. So that made me work with our foundation, which then I sat in the investment committee where we decided on the different projects that we're going to work on with the local people in the areas we're working. Yeah.
Wow. That is a wide spectrum that you've worked on there.
Yes.
And you first studying psychology, and then embarking into business.
Yes.
Walk us how you combine these two then and now.
So for me, the background through sociology is understanding communities and societal issues, how people interact and all of that. And I think business is about that. If you don't know who your customers are, who your stakeholders are, you tend not to progress as much as you would have it. So that helped me a lot. But then I think also what helps is to be a perpetual student. You can't come and say you know everything. That's why you have a team that you work with who come with their own different skills and talents into the mix. So for me, it's always been making sure I get people with different skills to work with. And also, if I am lacking somewhere, I would go and study that and do training. So much that because I always had an open door policy whilst I was in corporate. So we found that people interacting with people coming in and out. They tend to relax and come and talk about different things in other than work. Also talk about different things in their lives. So I spent about close to at least about 10 years or more working in this industry, energy industry. And I think by the time it was 15 years, I was feeling very tired and starting to get bored. You know, I'd done different things, but I was starting to get bored with the work. And then I started to look and decide what is it that I want to pursue further in my life. This is when I spoke with a friend who then said, explaining to her that I'm very good at listening. I'm very good at kind of some people call it counseling. It wasn't counseling for me. It was just coaching people through whatever they were going through. And they would be excited and find it very helpful from my side. For other people, it may have been a management or a leadership role that I was playing. So she then said to me, if you want to continue doing such work, it's best to train for it. So I started looking for a coaching company that I could work with. And I found Results Coaching System, which is Australian based, but they have offices here in South Africa. And I then trained with them. I think I spent about almost 3 years training with them in different things of coaching. Yes. And that's how I got into coaching.
Wow. So it's amazing. It's amazing how, people grow into other areas, into other specialities within their journey. And yours has been very beautiful because, sociology, then business, then, you go into coaching. And, I see how the connection came in because, within your workspace that you are in the corporate world, you had kind of mentor a lot of people who are coming in, people in the community, especially into the areas where you were installing the new, energy or planning new energy construction. And, it empowered you a little bit to get to understand the needs of the people, to get to know and to be close to the society, to understand far much better. And like when, sometimes we plan a lot of things as in corporate world, but you find that the people who are actually affected, nobody kind of gets so connected to them or, comes close to them. And here you are able to do that in your normal activity, yet also having that time to be able to, connect with the community, see their needs that led you into coaching. Tell us how it felt to, change from corporate world to coaching, because in corporate world, you are in a stable, comfortable, everything is fine. But then when you go into coaching, you are now on your own and you have to, begin afresh. It is like you're starting afresh from zero. Walk through the journey, how it felt first to make the move, and then how it felt to have that change.
So you're gonna make me talk about some secrets.
You don't have to speak about everything. Just say what you feel comfortable to speak about, and the rest you can just feel. But it's about, to have other people who are probably wondering, I am here, I have passion for this, I don't know how I can make this. How do people feel when they make that transition? And, knowing that, you're coming from a large corporate world. Energy sector is a large sector. It's a comfortable, is a very lucrative sector. And then you choose to come from that to be, to have your own company as a coach. Past you've trained as a coach, yes, but figuring out how are you going to help the society, what exactly line of coaching you are in, and, things like that. So you don't have to speak about any secret from anybody or anything. Just about you.
No, it's not really it was a secret then, but no longer a secret, and it won't hurt me in any way. So because what I did was I was doing some training during, I was still working in corporate, but attending training courses. But most of the work we did, over weekends or during the week after hours, on the phone. And that's how I began to understand that you can work through the phone or you can work through using, technology like Skype. So when I made the decision that I want to leave corporate, I did train as a coach. And then I also took some courses where I wanted to understand how I can run my business, how I can market myself, how I can network. So there were quite a number of courses that I took and networking sessions that I attended. I was exposed. I think one of them was called Success. So what they do, they work with small businesses and helping them to connect with other small businesses and just learn the skills of the trade. And all that, I think what I'm doing now is to whoever is listening and wanting to start a business, you've got to plan it for yourself. In the sense that you cannot say, I'm going to do this, but I must go and get money from somewhere. I must go in and ask so and so to help me here. So I did plan to start my business. Because I was also a strategy and planning manager, so I knew that I had to plan.
Yes.
I bought books to read so that I can understand. I spoke to a few people, to advise me, to mentor me. So that is the journey that I took. And I think from the day I started talking about leaving, it took me another 2.5 years. So it wasn't a decision that I made like that, and then I went for it. So that helped me a lot. It also helps with understanding what lies ahead. You can have all these dreams and things that you want to do, the goals you want to meet, but sometimes those are still dreams. Once you start implementing, it's a different story altogether. You can say you have a long list of people that you know and you're going to approach them for certain things, but it doesn't mean that they will always be there because they also have their own things that are doing. So it's been a learning curve. I'm a perpetual learner and implement what I learn. I take the good from what I learn and learn from the bad also at the same time. So today I do life coaching and business coaching, and my interest really lies with leadership, with people who own small businesses and individuals, because I think that we were born to be here for a reason, for a purpose, and I think with some people they need people to show them what that is. Others know exactly what it is. So, but coaching is all about, helping individuals, teams to understand what is it that they want to achieve and how they're going to achieve those goals, helping them along to go from here to there in a nice way, in a good way. And, and it's not just for, sometimes people think that coaching is just for people who are failing or cannot get on with life. But that's not true. Even if you are successful, you still need a coach. It just depends where you want to be coached on. Yeah. So with the business coaching, I do get my corporate knowledge into the mix, and use it when I'm working with the people. Because I find that you cannot leave somebody if they don't have a plan. You can advise and say, look, in your business, you need to understand that your product needs to be sold. So you need to know your market. You need to know your logistics, how you're going to distribute this thing. So sometimes people will say, oh, I just want to make money. But it's not about the money. You need to live the dream that you have inside of you. And the money will.
Exactly. Awesome. Beautiful. We have Joy Ellingham. She's watching from Germany. She says, awesome. We have Winsome White. We have Omega Mother Seal all the way from Florida. And she says, invest in yourself. Absolutely learn so you can teach. Because it is important. We can only teach what we have learned. Because when you are in the learning process, you go through certain mistakes, and those mistakes you learn from them. So when you're teaching to somebody else, you're able to have evidence and say, this would not work because of this and this, not just blunt, but because you already have that experience, you've seen, what has happened, and you have already learned how to do it better, so you can be able to support somebody else. And like to say, coaching is not, it's not about money, it's about, supporting people in a good way. It is helping even big organizations where they have it all together. Sometimes there is that one thing that they still are missing, that they would need support with to get it right, so that they can, go even further from where they are. And it's very beautiful how you connected that, especially in your now coaching that you do in your, especially to private small business owners, you're bringing your corporate experience. Because as a small business, you're starting at a level where before it was easier probably, and now it is even more difficult because there's so many other companies that have already established themselves. So you kind of have to find a bearing for you. You have to find a footing for you. You have to find, why should people come to you? And then you find when you're doing all that, sometimes we miss a lot of things in between. Because even as a coach, you also need a coach to stay, which, all that works very, honey, one in one together. Because with everything that we do, we want to grow. We just don't want to start and stagnate where we are. We want to grow. And there is nothing like expecting that somebody will bring you the money so that you can move forward. You have to find strategies. You have to find ways that will enable you to move forward. So we will just make another shot. And when we come back, Kosi will be speaking to us how she's been benefiting her community. She's spoken about coaching in businesses. We want to hear how she does life coaching to the normal, people within her society. I know that she does also coaching for young teenage mothers, young teenage girls, women who are trying to move from where they are to, point Z. So she will be giving us a broader spectrum of how she works both in business and life for the simple single mom or simple single dad or simple family that comes in and say, this is our situation, that involves business and life, and how she combines that together. So don't go anywhere. We will be back in just a minute. Welcome back. This is the show, Who Are You? I am your host, Dr. Leah, and our guest today is Kosi, all the way from South Africa. She is a coach, both in business and life, and she is coming from a corporate world where she changed her career from being in the corporate to starting her own coaching business. And this was through learning and meeting people in the community where she was serving when she was still in the corporate world. Kosi is implementing what she learned in the corporate world into small businesses, into young teenage mothers, young girls who are aspiring to become business people, who are aspiring, to get into the corporate world. So, mostly, we would love to know, how do you work with these different diverse communities, business and the single people? For example, we take a young teen mother who has, had to cut short so many things because of pregnancy, but then has decided to come back and begin her journey from where it was. How do you work with her, considering that, she would be looking to start a business? How would you incorporate that you've learned in the corporate world to this young teenage mom?
So working with the young teenage mothers, it was an interesting journey for me, because one had to understand what led them to where they are today, and understanding in a sense of empathizing with them, you know. So what that meant was, every time I spoke with them, it was from a place of empathy, a
Okay.
place of saying that it was not their fault, a place of saying that, well, they've come to us to be coached. It means that they know that they have a lot of things that they can still do ahead in their lives. The young folks, teenagers, and early adults, young adults. So that's why we focused on for me, I focused on making them think about what their goals are. It was first to say, okay, what are your dreams and how can we make them possible? So leading, having them to dream and then start thinking about how can those become goals that they can work on, which was very fulfilling. They were willing. That is the other thing. They were willing to work at odd hours of the day, which was amazing. I know some of them were struggling with connectivity, which is a big thing. Some of them still had other things that they needed to do other than looking after their children. So the fact that they did the course all the way, for 30 days was inspiring, encouraging, and knowing that what they took from the coaching, they will be able to use. Um, what I can say also is that I think I looked at my mother and her friends who work in the community and learned a lot from them. So I'm kind of implementing some of the things that I learned from them. And listening is one of them. Listening yourself, and listening with an ear to, not to criticize, not to bash, but to listen, to help, to understand, and work with the people that you're working with. I've also worked with women in different industries like agriculture, construction. Women like to do beadwork and making beautiful artifacts, I can put it that way. And some of them were women who were not well educated, but willing to work with me. And I was amazed at myself how I was able to do that, to work with them. And because they constituted themselves into cooperatives. But then we found that there is this key thing in running a cooperative or a business that people tend to overlook, which is how you govern yourself, governance. And so I find that other than, coaching for the things that I was asked to do, I ended up also talking about how they should govern themselves, because and it's not a hierarchical thing, but it's just a way of running your business smoothly, if I can put it that way. When you know that in the team you have somebody that can bring the skill and talent, that skill and talent, that people who are good at being chairmen, that people who are good at managing money. So when you ask those individuals to do that, but at the same time you've got to understand why you have to do that, to manage the books, not to eat the money, but to manage the books for the benefits and the good of what you are to do. Yeah. So I have worked with women, and I've had to kind of take them through all those steps of understanding those different things in a cooperative and business.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love, the technique, the important skills that you've touched in, especially, listening. Listening is important skill, because when you listen, you digest fast before you act on it, because then you are able to analyze what is there for me to pick at that conversation. What is there for me to learn in that setting that I was in, that I'm learning to get a new thing. And so it is important for us to learn to listen, and then we can digest the information and be able to act on the correct information. And then another important skill that you've spoken about is, governing yourself, learning how to govern yourself, and learning how to delegate, because also being a professional in project management, people forget that every successful project is a team behind it. There is no one-man show. It is a team behind it. And even when it is a small project, there is still a team behind it, because any person, even if it is a one person who is coming in and giving you some breakdown of an information, is part of a team, because the person is helping you to get something that you would otherwise not get it by yourself out there. If you have that broad spectrum of having 2-3 people to support you, delegating those activities, which sometimes also you need to have trust and discernment to understand what you're delegating and how you're delegating with your timeline. So delegating activities enables a lot of people to be able to work also on other things. Like for me, I have learned to delegate activities as well to my children. Like now I am learning to delegate activities, like, for example, making flyers for my shows. My daughter is doing that for me, and she's doing it very, perfectly, that I'm so amazed. But it is learning to give other people activities, to trust them, and trust certain activities into the hands of some people, so that you can be able to get a back seat and reflect on other things that you need to be doing or to be working on. And so I think those skills that you have given is very important, that people get to understand that if you're starting a small business, wherever you are at, learning to listen, to govern yourself, delegating activities, understanding your space is very important. Because you've talked to us about those techniques that are already being implemented by you to your clients. Walk us through a situation or a coaching that you did where you sat back and you saw a huge growth, and how it felt for you.
So I can think of a group of women that I coached, and they are in the business of making shoes, and it nice, beautiful shoes for the community, and shoes that can very comfortable. And when I started working with them, they were, I think I would say they were at a point of giving up. And then we started working. The big thing for them was they did not have a market, and they did not know how to access a market. And we started talking about different ways of getting their products sold. And so I used to meet them every third week. And it was so wonderful for me. Every time I went there, they would tell me about the different things that they're doing. So by the time I finished with them, they were not shy anymore to find markets for themselves. They were able to sell from the cities. They were able to sell from. There were different agricultural places around their area, and they were also selling on Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah, and they had started developing flyers, to distribute and place it, at different places. So, was it an easy journey? It was not easy. I think, one of the things that one learns is that people tend to sell things, but they don't think about the actual cost of the product that they're making. That was one other issue. Another issue was that once they've sold something, to them it feels like it's already profit, when it is not. You still have to have money for the next set of products that you're going to make. And so then the third thing was they also wanted to be earning something from that money. So we had many conversations, coaching sessions around how do we get money for ourselves. As we can see, we're beginning to sell now, but at the same time keep money to buy materials that we need to continuously produce. So that was not an easy discussion to have, but it was a necessary discussion to have.
Wow, wow, beautiful, beautiful. And what I love is that these are just simple local people. But when you went in there, you didn't know what was going to come out of it. And they were just selling simple shoes, they're just making simple shoes, and here they are now flourishing, because of you going in and supporting them, and them also being reciprocative by taking in your advice, working on themselves, working on what you have already guided them to work, working on understanding their market and where other opportunities would be for them to be able to sell the shoes, and then just starting to flourish. And definitely it is never an easy journey, as you say. You don't just wake up today and you start a business tomorrow, it is booming. It takes time and it takes patience. It's something that we all learn at one point of life, to be patient, to allow space, growth, etc. And so it is important that you've also put that one out. Tell us in your own words, the technique that you use, that you think this technique is one of the most or one of the best techniques I have used, and I gradually use it more than more than other techniques, and you see it works much better, or it works more with your clients than maybe somebody else's technique, or maybe any other techniques that you have, because I believe you have several techniques. But there is this one technique, and why that one technique?
Okay. I think one of the things that I tend to do is to always understand what the current reality is of the person I'm working with, because that gives me a base of where do we start and how do we move forward. Because what happens is a person will say, I need coaching on X, and then only to find that X is not the thing you should be coached on at this time and moment. So, and that works very well for me. And it's also an icebreaker, because you get to know a little bit about the person that you're going to be coaching. And then, of course, there are a few questions that I ask. that help me to understand who am I working with. You find that in corporates, people will tend to tell you that can you work with this person because of A, B, C, D. But then, that is a manager's point of view. Most of the time, it's the manager's point of view. Until you sit down with the individual, you get to understand exactly what it is that they want to be coached on. But having said that, in a corporate, of course, you have to sign a contract with the manager or whoever is going to be paying for the work that you're going to do. And we have to find a middle ground to understand each other, how we're going to do this. Because part of the coaching is very confidential. So, you have to find a way of understanding what is it that you're going to tell and how much you're not going to tell. But also at the same time, they have to see results and what they're paying for.
Wow, awesome.
And then the other, sorry, just to add, then there are other different tools that one can use, but those you decide on once you've been working with a person. I don't believe that all the tools are for general use. I think the tool is effective once you understand what the issues are, what the challenges are, and then you can use it to,
Yes, and you're very right, because like they say, one shoes does not fit all, and so you have to understand the client, you have to understand the need, you have to understand where they are at, so that you are able to support them, you are able to help them or to advise them from where they are to where they want to be able to find a perfect fit for them. So, KHOSI, what is your legacy? What would you believe is a legacy you want to leave?
I think the legacy will be determined by the people left behind. They will know what my legacy is. But I just believe that each and every one of us has a potential, and sometimes that potential is hidden, and you just need somebody to help you unleash it. And if I can be able to do that to many people and add value, to their lives, I'll be happy.
Wow, that is very well said. Each one of us has a potential, because we are all valuable and we have a purpose why we are where we are at. And that is so beautiful, well said, because, and it's interesting when many a times we say that legacy will only be determined by the people who will be remembering you. But I always say it is important that we can be able to appreciate people when they are there, because then they know what they're doing is really effective. It is impacting their community, because at the end of the day, what we do, the main goal is that we can impact our communities, we can impact our nations, we can impact our spheres of influence, our space, that it can be a better place. It can be, of course, it will not be 100% better, but it will be better than yesterday. And better today to be better than yesterday, than having yesterday better than today. So, and it is important to, to know, and for people also to understand that, each one has a potential. It is only to begin to identify and to know what is my potential and how can I put it out there to use and benefit, my space, benefit my community. So thank you so much, KHOSI, for showing up into this show, Who Are You? And how people can get to contact you if they want to get to know you more, if they want to work with you, if they want to understand the techniques that you work with within, your coaching business.
So I'm on Facebook under SaraiG Consulting. And then my email address, can I put it on the chat box?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I can put it on the chat box.
Yes, please. Yes, please. We, as KHOSI gives us her contact details so that we can put it up there. We just want to appreciate, each and every coach out there who is doing a wonderful job to support the community, to support, small businesses, especially because they are the ones who are now, coming up, struggling, trying to find a fit, trying to find a niche. And we are really applauding the coaches out there who are really doing a great job to support people, whether it is in business, whether it is in life coaching, in relationship, wherever coaching place you are in. We want to appreciate you and that you know that it is valuable to the society. Whether you get a yes effect from somebody or, whether you get a feedback from somebody or not get a feedback, just know that you have impacted somebody in your sphere of influence. In one way or another, you brought change into that person, you brought change into that community space, you brought change into the nation, because they will take that technique and they will go and multiply it out there. So thank you so much, KHOSI, for showing up, giving us your time, giving us your wisdom, sharing with us what you do, sharing with us your journey, how you started and where you are at. And we are glad that we were able to be with you in South Africa. Next week, we are still remaining in South Africa. We will be meeting another wonderful, powerful lady. She's as well. She's a translation. She does translation from different languages, especially in French. She has an NGO. She's a co-founder of an NGO called She La Femme. She is in supporting of young teen mothers. She has experienced a lot through her journey, which she will talk to us about. And she is implementing what she has learned through her journey into these young women, young teenage mothers, as they begin their journey, as they try to find their feet out there, as they begin to understand that whatever happens in life, it has a purpose. There is no shame to nothing. All there is learning and wisdom. And so no matter where you are at today, we encourage you to encourage yourself and to know that it doesn't matter what has happened in the past. What is in the future is what matters, because the past does not define your future. You define the future, and you begin to define your future when you accept the position that you are in, when you begin to learn from people who have learned and have walked that journey and begin to take up and implement one step at a time on what they bring out for you. So thank you very much for all those who have been watching live, sharing your comments. We really appreciate you. Those who will be watching replays, we will appreciate your comments. We will appreciate your feedback. And until next week, this is your host, Dr. Leah, and our guest from South Africa, Coach KHOSI. Please pronounce again your name.
Cabashe.
Cabashe.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
KHOSI Cabashe. I love her second name, and I just didn't want to take a risk of saying it and pronouncing it so wrongly. So it was enough to pronounce the first name wrongly, but to get the second name right was very important. So thank you all, and until next week, same time, same place, we say stay safe and thank you for joining in with us. Okay.